am really excited to be here. Um, oh, creating this presentation had me go down a path on memory lane. As I was creating information on chronic pain for you, I had to think about how I became where I am now. And it really began so many years ago. I was a massage therapist before I was an acupuncturist, and then you're an acupuncturist, and then you take all kinds of extra training, and then my years of AcuGraph and learning how to analyze, and somehow chronic pain has just been something that people have naturally been attracted to me. And so my clinic is very much focused on chronic pain. If I chose three things that I absolutely love to focus on, it's chronic pain, fibromyalgia, and any emotions related to chronic conditions. So the patients who come to me are typically, they come after they've been everywhere else and they aren't able to get the relief that they need, and so they wind up in my clinic. So your patients that come to you kind of dictate what your specialty will be, right? If you've treated a lot of pregnancy related issues and that's who comes to you, that's what you become a specialist in. So my specialist in chronic pain came because of my patients and because of the experience that I have developed over the years. So in today's presentation, I'm going to talk to you, we're going to talk about, you know, maybe I should share my screen and just go ahead and we'll go over here. We're going to talk about chronic pain and becoming a specialist, but we're going to tie it back to AcuGraph because AcuGraph is a very significant part of what I do. And I honestly believe that it's because I have AcuGraph that so many patients come to me. I've become really good through the years of being able to explain AcuGraph, explain what I see in the body, use AcuGraph as my tool to discuss things with my patient. But it's not just to get them in the door. I actually watch the progress of what's going on in my patient. And so through visit to visit, and obviously you've been to plenty of trainings with me that you know this, but I can see pain in the graph. And so we're going to talk about becoming a specialist in pain, and we're going to talk about it through the eyes of AcuGraph. Let's see. So several years back, any of you who own the rapid release technology that we sell here at Meridia Technology in some of our advanced trainings, I actually wrote a book, Move Blood, Stop Pain. And the theory that I used in that book is part of the theory that I'm going to talk about today. In the book, I talked about it very specific to the rapid release. If you have this tool, here's a system. Here's a system that will make the tool more beneficial to you as an acupuncturist, and I teach you how to think like an acupuncturist. But the truth is that system that I use in that book is sort of the system that I follow whether I'm using needles or anything that I'm doing in the clinic. It's that system that has evolved through the years. So before we talk about the chronic pain, we're going to talk about 4 truths and a lie, and this is kind of the journey of how I became a chronic pain specialist, and I bet that this fits your journey as well. So let's talk about number 1. The number 1 condition that an acupuncture treats in the clinic is pain. I'm not discounting anybody else who treats fertility or eye issues or asthma or insomnia, but you'll see by the end of my presentation that there is pain involved in every chronic condition in the body because there's stagnation, and it's usually pain that will get the person to pick up the phone and call you. Lots of things, they'll just deal with their hormonal issues or they'll deal with their insomnia, they'll just take a pill. But if they're in pain, then they will finally seek out to an acupuncturist, and oftentimes they've tried everything else, right? And so they wind up in our clinic. So in my experience and with many patients or practitioners that I know, pain is the number one thing that brings them in. Doesn't mean that that's the only thing you treat, but pain will get them through the door. If you want to be a successful acupuncturist, you must be really good at treating pain. I believe this 100%. You, whatever other condition that you're going to treat on your patient, if there is stagnation in the acupuncture pathway that's causing them pain, unless you resolve that pain, you're not going to be able to resolve the other issues. And we'll talk about that more as I progress in our presentation. So I think you have to be good at treating pain if you're going to be really good at treating anything else. And then, oh, so if we go back, those were truths, right? Truth, truth. And now the lie. TCM is all you need to know for treating pain. When I graduated college, I remember putting my cap and gown on, and I remember them telling us, you have everything you need to walk out into the world and to be successful. And I didn't. All I knew how to think about was TCM. And I would think about TCM patterns, and everything was about a TCM pattern. And I don't care if you have spleen Qi deficiency with damp, and I'm going to treat spleen 6 and stomach 36. If that's the underlying cause, you have pain because you have damp, and I just treat the damp condition, that is not going to resolve the pain. And honestly, because people are always coming for pain and you want to be good at it, that's what pushed me to take so many other classes. You take the Dr. Tan classes, you take the sports medicine classes, all the other courses out there that help you to be really good at treating pain. Those are the CEUs that we began to take as we continue our journey in the acupuncture world. And that was true for me, like I am sure it is true for many of you. So, number 4, acupuncture channel theory is a must when it comes to treating pain. And I will stand on a pedestal and I will shout it far and wide. If you don't understand the acupuncture channels and the pathways and where they go and where they need to go next, you're missing a key component for treating pain. And because you're AcuGraph users, you have what it takes to be amazing. And this should be number 5. Okay, AcuGraph is the best resource ever for acupuncture channel theory. You'll find that where you are in your journey with AcuGraph, if you're a brand new AcuGraph user, you're excited because you have this new tool to be able to show your patients, and patients will really like it. As you've begun to use AcuGraph for a very long time, you will recognize that your ability to look inside the body based off of channel imbalances helps you to expand your vision and see more of what's happening in the body, because AcuGraph are the eyes that help you to get in and see deeper. And if you didn't have AcuGraph, you would not be looking at internal pathways every single day in your clinic. Those would be the things that you learned in college to pass an exam, and then occasionally on a weekend, you'd pick up a book and you'd read it. But you guys are seeing this every single day. So it gives you a broader vision of how you can help your patient better. So I'm going to talk about a few different pain theories before we get specific into AcuGraph analysis. And here is simple acupuncture pain theory. Before I move on, Adrian, will you just chime in and tell me if, I'm not looking at chats or questions, but if we're at a breaking point when it's smart to stop and answer questions.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Kimberly, because we do encourage questions. Ask things in the chat window, and then when we get to answering the questions, if we need to, we'll have you come in live, turn on your mic and so on. So if something comes up, make sure you bring it up. Back to you, Kimberly.
Thank you. So simple acupuncture pain theory. You know, you studied sometimes 4 to 6 years to gather all of the education that you needed for acupuncture, and you studied herbs, and you studied patterns, and you studied emotions, and you studied all of the different pieces. But if you had to break it down into the simple aspect of acupuncture and why it's so good at resolving pain, because that's what we're focusing on today is pain, you would recognize that the acupuncture pathways go in levels. They start at a superficial level, and then they go deeper and deeper and deeper into the body. And when you understand these different levels, you understand how pain might start at a superficial level, and by the time it's gone deep, then of course there's more elements to the pain. That's when pain is qi and blood stagnation. So when you have qi and blood stagnation on deeper levels, that's when the more extravagant diseases show up. But it all started on a superficial level. And what you need to recognize is all the layers count. So when there's qi and blood stagnation in a pathway, somebody has, here's the superficial level, the cutaneous on the skin level, and then the muscular level, and again, those are superficial, right? Cutaneous, minute sinews, luo, sinews would be muscular. So these first two pictures right here on the screen are the superficial level. And then what happens next is the stagnation goes deeper. So if a patient is stagnant in these shoulders, neck, jaw, where they're holding their tension, then eventually they're going to be stagnant internal. And now, just for this particular pathway, we're looking at the eyes, the ears, the stomach, the intestines, even down the knee. And this is a fun thing to recognize and understand. If your patient has problems in their knee and you're resolving some of it just simply by resolving the stagnation in this small intestine pathway, that's a powerful thing. And it's a powerful thing when you understand that and you can recognize it, and you can talk to your patient and help your patient to understand how you're seeing what's happening in the body. So all the layers count when you're dealing with chronic pain, not just the superficial, but what's happening all the way through the body, deep, extraordinary, primary, divergent, everything counts when it comes to treating chronic pain. So let's talk about acute pain for a moment. Acute pain is sudden onset, easy to fix. This is that patient who they woke up and they slept wrong and their neck hurts and they come in for acupuncture and you can fix them really fast. So the truth is that patient isn't going to call you as a brand new patient. That patient is going to be one of your regular patients, right? They've been coming for a really long time. They know they have this thing in their neck, so they're going to call you because they already know that you can treat pain. But that's not the person who comes through your door for pain when they found you on the internet, typically. These patients who call you are the chronic pain patients. This is the stubborn pain, the scar tissue, the adhesions. This is when blood stagnation has stayed for so long. Now there's inflammation, and then the key thing is this last bullet here, leads to internal blockages. We'll go back to my picture here. If somebody holds this muscle tension in their shoulders and their jaw for long periods of time, eventually it's going to affect internal heart, stomach, intestines. So, heart can be the insomnia, the sleep issues, the anxiety, the digestive issues can be the leaky gut, and all of the issues involved with digestion, which become long-term chronic autoimmune disorders even. And it starts here at a superficial level. So the pain cycle is they have muscle tension, then circulation is reduced, then chi and blood aren't moving the way it needs to, so you wind up with inflammation. When there's inflammation, then they have pain. They aren't able to move their limbs the way they need to, and we need them to move their limbs in order to get circulation, so then they get more pain and they get more muscle tension. So it's this horrible cycle of chronic pain. So what I found through the years that when you reach the point of chronic pain, because we're not acute anymore, it's more deep and it's gone internal, that's when TCM patterns develop. Patterns like wind, cold, damp, chi stagnation, blood deficiency. And when it's more at an acute level and it's easy to fix, that's just a quick treat the Ashi points, treat where the pain is. But when there's a pattern, it's important to recognize the pattern. And I'm going to talk about that more as we move further. But the key point to recognize at this point of the presentations, if you've reached the point of gone from acute to chronic, there is typically a pattern, and the pattern needs to be considered. So, but here's what you need to recognize. Regardless if there's a TCM pattern, in order for there to be a TCM pattern, it involves acupuncture pathways, and it involves treating points along the pathways and making sure energy is moving through the pathways. You can't have a pattern. I mean, how do you get damp? How do you get blood stagnation? How do you get chi deficiency? It's all based on energy not moving in the pathways the way they need to, which leads to a pattern. So when you were in college and they told you treat the pattern first and then everything else will follow, I'm telling you opposite. Treat the pathways, put the body into balance, and then the patterns will be eliminated. So so that was acupuncture theory, and I've been studying acupuncture theory, obviously, for many, many years, and it's one of my favorite things to study, and I do it all the time. I do it in my spare time. You'll see me with a book in my lap on many occasions, but I love to study all things that are truthful. So then there's the fascia tissue acupuncture theory. And this, to me, the fascia tissue theory is the theory where science has caught up with traditional Chinese medicine. So on a scientific level, they've studied the fascia, they know what fascia does, and I feel like the fascia tissue is where it ties back to traditional Chinese medicine theory and acupuncture pathways, and we're going to talk about that for a moment. So when I was in college and I was little Miss study nerd, studying all the time, I had the opportunity to go to a body exhibit presentation. And because I was a student, I got in for a discount, and I got to go from place to place and watch the pattern of fascia tissue throughout the body. So in one part of the presentation, there might just be a heart, and you could see all the fascia tissue going through the heart, and you could see the brain, and you could see the muscles, and you could see all the fascia tissue through the different organ systems. You could see the fascia tissue, how it evolved on a newborn fetus, and you could see the fascia tissue in an injury. It was super fascinating to me. And when you got to the very end of the whole presentation, they had this great big glass model that looks very similar to a picture like this. And they took all the bones away, they took all the muscles away, they took all the organs away, and they just showed the fascia tissue on how it connected through the whole body. I didn't understand science at that time, but I looked at that web structure and I knew that that was part of acupuncture, and that had to be an underlying structure of something that I didn't know and understand yet. But to me, that was a marvelous network. And what I've learned since then, as studying fascia tissue on a more in-depth level, that there is fascia tissue in our veins. There's fascia tissue in fat tissue and bones and lymph and nerves and muscles and blood. And so when you are working with the muscular portion of the body and the internal portion of the body, the fascia tissue, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, many books that I've read, The Body Electric, there's many of them. When you put a needle in the body, let's see, what's my next slide? Let me see. I'll tell you my needle in the body story in a moment. So fascia tissue is made up of these crystals that conduct electricity, and when they're blocked, they cause restrictions within the body, and then the restrictions can turn into scar tissue and adhesions. So that's stagnation, right? That's how stagnation is formed in the body. And when I studied, when I was writing my book, Move Blood, Stop Pain, and I was understanding the electrical nature of the body, and I was understanding fascia tissue, and I was understanding the rapid release and the frequency of the rapid release, which would stimulate fascia tissue. That's kind of how the whole exciting foundation of that book was formed. I realized that the study of osteopathy, an osteopath doctor, that is the foundation of osteopathic medicine, is the fascia tissue. So back in 1874, there was a doctor by the name of Dr. Andrew Still, and this quote really struck home with me in my studies. You can look at fascia to study the beginning and the end of the disease process. If fascia tissue is free-flowing, then systems of the body will work well, while blockages in fascia tissue cause disease. That is very much how we think of energy flowing in the body, and how we think of chi stagnation and blood stagnation, and how we develop into TCM patterns. So I took my acupuncture theory and I took my fascia tissue theory, and I realized that when I'm dealing with these deep internal pathways, and I'm treating the superficial, because superficial is where the acupuncture points are, right? That's your entry into the body. When I'm treating at the superficial level, fascia tissue was the mechanism that makes sense to me of how I make my way into the internal. Here's where I want to tell you this little story. So my patients ask me all the time, so how does that acupuncture work? And my simple little answer that I give them, because patients don't need complicated answers. They love your excitement, and they don't need me to talk about all the TCM patterns and chi and blood stagnation and how, they don't need me to talk about all of that. I give them one simple little story and analysis. I tell them about fascia tissue. And I tell them that fascia tissue runs throughout the entire body, and that when you place a needle in an acupuncture point and you stimulate it, you're actually stimulating the fascia tissue. And the fascia tissue is the network that allows the electrical influence to then affect the internal parts of the body. And then I talk to them about, you know, those little, I feel like I have one here. Yes, I do. These little clicker, I'm gonna stop my screen share. You know these little clicker things when you're gonna light a candle or light your barbecue? I talk to them about these things because everybody knows what they are. And I tell them there's some magic inside of that little device that creates the spark, and there are actually crystals in here. And when you push the button, the crystals move together, create a spark, and then you get the energy that comes out the end. So I explained to them that when I put an acupuncture needle in and I'm stimulating the fascia tissue, that fascia tissue then creates the energetic motion, which then communicates with the rest of the body. So that's kind of my little analysis on how I talk about fascia tissue to the patient. It's really simple. If you'll learn to talk to your patients in simple terms that they can understand, it makes life so much easier. It feels like now might be a good time to stop. Do I need to answer any question?
There's just a couple. A simple one from Sheila. What do you mean by channel theory?
Okay, that's still coming, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll give a quick answer. Acupuncture theory is based on TCM and patterns and 5 elements. Channel theory is based on one acupuncture pathway, which moves to the next pathway, which moves to the next pathway, which moves to the next pathway. And I'm going to talk about that as we move forward.
Great. And then the other question is, does it matter if the pain is throbbing or dull or sharp, etc.? Does it change our approach to treatment?
No, it doesn't. I'll leave it at that, because I think that as I progress in the presentation, that those questions will be answered.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to just take a deep breath, slow down for a moment.
Yes. And
you can tell I get excited about this stuff, right?
Oh, and
I am passionate about it.
Don't forget to share your screen again when you start.
I'm going to do that right now. Thank you. Okay, so fascia tissue, we talked about traditional Chinese medicine theory. We talked about fascia tissue theory. It's a great thing to study and understand, and especially when it comes to AcuGraph, because when you are measuring acupuncture points, you're measuring electrical conductivity on the acupuncture pathway, and the body is electric and fascia tissue is electric. So to me, this is that Western piece that ties back into our medicine. And I know that so many people could explain it better and more, pick it apart than I do. But to me, in my world, it's an understanding. It's a concept that makes sense, and it's something that I can feel, and it just works. So we're going to move on. So fascia tissue is a semiconductor of electricity. It transports electrical energy over long distances. So when you put an acupuncture needle in, you're stimulating the fascia tissue, and that's how the messages wind up through the body. The trick is knowing the right points to treat, because if you're treating the right point, you know that if I treat this point, I'm affecting this area of the body. And if I treat this point, I'm affecting a different area of the body. So knowing your points and pathways and your Luo points, and if you're trying to create, resolve heat. I think the question that was just asked, whether it's a aching pain or a throbbing pain, perhaps choosing the right point on the pathway is key there. And then the multiple tools. Today is not a time where I am getting deeply into talking about the rapid release and how I use it. If you own it, then you already have my theory in the book. But what I love about the rapid release is the frequency of the device is the same frequency of fascia tissue in the body. So when you're using it, you're creating a stimulation of the fascia tissue throughout the body. And that's probably all I will talk about on that right now, because that is one of my tools, but the concept of treating chronic pain is more than just a tool. It's the whole picture. So now I'm going to talk about AcuGraph channel theory. When you measure the acupuncture points on the body, you're not seeing TCM patterns. You're seeing energetic blockages. You're seeing which pathways have too little energy and which channels have too much energy. And really, if you simplified it down into a sentence, your goal is to show your patient where the imbalances are, and then you're going to treat the right points to put the body into balance so that the body can heal. And because you have a tool to measure, you can watch progress. And because you have a computerized system on the back end where we've put all the fabulous bells and whistles in, where you can click the channel and show them the muscular pathway and show them the internal pathways, it gives you a much your opportunity to explain how acupuncture works is so much richer, and your patients appreciate it so much more. So with AcuGraph, it is not TCM theory, it's a Japanese theory of acupuncture. And with Japanese, the Japanese are more channel theory, and their basic concepts are blockages cause problems throughout the body, and when energy flows, the body heals. And this is, I just copied this from a patient report. This is a patient on October 27th. And then when they came in on November 3rd, so much had changed because I used the tools and the resources and the understanding of where the energy was flowing in the body, and used the right points and used all the right stuff. And you can get amazing results if you wrap your head around channel theory. I didn't, and here's a secret, I didn't wrap my head around channel theory when I first started with AcuGraph. I wrapped my head around TCM theory, and AcuGraph was just a tool to explain, to get patients to come in. Once that shift changed and I could recognize the power of AcuGraph, then everything changed. I diversed, sorry. I'll keep going. So then we're going to talk about the Kimberly theory. So, you know, who gets to create a theory? I don't know. Who am I to come up with my very own theory? My theory is based on my experience. My theory is based on my years as a massage therapist. Because I touched the body, I knew where there were blockages. I knew where things were stuck. I could tell where things were empty. I knew nothing about acupuncture points and pathways at the time. And I would touch somebody in one area and I'd be like, why is this stuck here? And how can I move it? And it was a journey of, then I would explore and feel, and I would push and I would pull, and I would put all this time into body work, and I was just trying to figure it out. Then I went to acupuncture. I went to college to become an acupuncturist. And I was still a massage therapist all the way through. And I would take those points classes and those pathway classes and learn the Luo point and an entry point and an exit point. And then I learned the muscular pathways. And it was so exciting to me. And I would have pictures all over the wall in my treatment, in my massage room. And I'd be practicing on my patient, and I'd feel where energy was stuck. And I would go, oh, what pathway is this? Where's it supposed to go? And I would feel along, and I could feel where it was stuck, and then I would feel where it needed to go next. And I realized that if I touched the right point, and then I'd go back to that area that was stuck, it would shift and it would move and it would change right under my hands. So I knew that the acupuncture theory worked because I could feel it underneath my hands. I didn't have to trust a needle later and hope. I could feel it, and I knew. Then AcuGraph came into the picture, and with AcuGraph, I could visualize it and I could see it. And my treatment room again had pictures, but they weren't all over the walls. They were in the computer screen, and they were based on that particular patient's body. And so I continued to learn and grow through AcuGraph. And then so grateful for Dr. Larson in taking me into the world of science and understanding laser and frequencies and vibrational therapy. And so as I learned to shift things in the body, and then there's hands, that's how it started. Then there's needles. And then I realized that there were more tools and more resources, and I could utilize all of them. And so the science began to come together. And through the years, here I am sitting and talking to you, teaching you how I became a pain specialist. And the only reason I can teach it is because I can do it, and I get amazing results, and I get the really, really hard patients. So I'm telling you, I'm trying to teach you some of the concepts of what I've learned, so it doesn't take you years and years and years and years to figure it out, because you have all the tools right in your hands. And so let me move on. So you have to know how to think like an acupuncturist. And questions that I ask when I'm touching the body or a patient's in pain and I'm thinking through my head, where is energy stuck? Where does it need to go? What's the best way to distribute this stuck energy? And I say best because there are lots of ways, and I've tried lots of them along the way. And what's best for one person isn't necessarily what's best for the next. And that's okay. You have to be, I would never go to college to be an engineer, but if you are an engineer of acupuncture pathways, and I am an engineer of the body, and I know those pathways and where they go and where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do, then the whole picture comes together, right? So every treatment is not the same for each person or from patient to patient. And then even if you have one patient and you're treating them over a series, every treatment is not the same. You have to, the theory is the same, but the treatment is not. You have to learn to think like an acupuncturist. Okay, so this is a true story. This is a graph from a patient of mine, and she had a almost green graph the week before. And she came in and I looked at her graph and I'm like, what happened? What's going on? And she said, oh, I went for a massage yesterday and they beat the hell out of me. So let's talk about massage for a minute. Let's talk about, I'll go back to my experience as a massage therapist. When I was a massage therapist, sometimes my favorite massages were if I could just treat the whole body and it was just complete. And at the end, the whole thing felt good and things felt balanced. Occasionally, I would get that patient who would come in and they would say, you know what, I just have neck and shoulder pain. I'm going to pay for an hour of work or an hour and a half, and I just want you to just work on the neck and shoulder. And I just want you to just do deep tissue and work hard and work on the neck and shoulder. That was really hard work. I didn't know enough in my career to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that. We have a better approach. I would let them tell me that that's what I needed to do. And I would pound it and I would pound it. And that's how you hurt your hands and your wrists and you do all this body work. It was through experience that I learned that if I treated the lower body, well, I'm going to tell you my experience in my next slide. If you go in and you try to treat one area of the body and the whole rest of the body is not in balance, you're not going to get good results. I'll say that right now. So now I'm going to tell you an analogy. And if you know me, I work with science, but I don't think like science. I think in analogies and stories. And I'm going to tell you about the bully in the neighborhood. And I talk to my patients about this analogy as well. So bear with me while I tell you a little story here. So here's the bully and here's the neighborhood. The neighborhood is the patient's body, okay? Well, if you're gonna have a bully in the neighborhood and you want to get the bully out of the neighborhood, and you go in with a baseball bat and you're gonna beat the bully, push him out, tell him you don't belong here, and you try to push him out. If within your neighborhood you haven't thought ahead and you have a parked car blocking the road here and you have a roadblock over here and a dumpster over here, and you have all these problems in the neighborhood. It's this gated community and you want to push the bully out and you haven't opened up the gates and the pathways in order for the bully to move. The bully's going to say, okay, you're beating me with a baseball bat. I'll move and go here. And then he's going to come right back to the place that he knows. He lives in the cul-de-sac. He's been there for a really long time. It's his happy place. He knows he's got his food storage. He's got his stuff. He owns the space. So if you think of a patient who comes in, before we talk about the patient, let's go to the next one. If you move the roadblocks, if you remove the roadblocks and then you try to get rid of the bully and you chase the bully around, The bully's going to go all the way through the neighborhood in all of these different places. And my analogy is, by the time the bully has gone through all the neighborhood and he's gotten so many resources and seen so many nice people, by the time he comes back to the cul-de-sac, he's come to Jesus. There's my analogy. He's a happy guy. He's not a bully anymore. Well, the same thing happens in our body. If you are going to take somebody who has shoulder pain and you're going to beat it, if you're going to beat it with massage and deep tissue work, or if you're going to beat it with needles and deep needle and gua sha and cupping, and you're just going to take that area of pain and work on that area of pain, it's going to come back. Patient's going to go home 2 days later and it's going to come back, because energy has no place to go. You have blockages all throughout the body. And if you don't take care of the blockages that are all throughout the body, when you push that bully out of the shoulder or the neck or the low back or the butt or wherever they're experiencing pain, it's just going to come back because the rest of the body is blocked. So this is an analogy that I've come up with, and it really fits well with treating your patient. There's a system that I use when I am treating chronic pain, and there's a reason that it works. I balance the graph. I clear all the blockages in the neighborhood. I make sure energy's flowing the way it needs to with the right points. Then I treat the pain, and this all happens in the same visit. I graph the patient, I put some needles in to balance the graph, and then I go and I work on the pain. If they have low back pain and sciatic pain, I'm working on the butt, I'm working on the IT band, I'm working on the gallbladder channel, I'm working on the right channel related to the pain. So balance the graph, treat the pain. Afterwards, I seal the deal with auriculotherapy. I've done whole trainings on this. I help to keep the bully out of the neighborhood. I find the area where they're having problems on the ear that's related to their place of pain. I treat it, I leave ear seeds. The patient can push on it the whole time that they're home. And then if they have chronic pain, I add herbs to treat the pattern. That's the system in a nutshell. And we're going to talk about what that looks like in AcuGraph. Let me have a little drink of my coffee here. So here's the bully in AcuGraph. This is their baseline treatment. If you've been around for a while, you know that small intestine, triple energizer, and large intestine, if you clicked on the muscular pathways here, these all go through the shoulders. And then if you clicked on the bladder channel, you know that distribution that comes all the way down the back and through the butt. This patient is in pain. There's a bully in the neighborhood. If the other way that you can look at it, so this is baseline and how I look at it. If you take that same graph and you click on energy cycle, now we're at the first channel. First channel is the lung, and the last channel is the liver. And after the liver, it goes back to lung again. So you're looking at the distribution, and you can see that because energy is holding on in the spleen, it's not getting to the heart. Because energy is holding on in the small intestine and the bladder pathways, it's not getting to the kidney or the pericardium. Because energy is holding on at the triple energizer, it's not getting to the liver. So do you see how important, before you go in and you deal with their shoulder pain or whatever their chief complaint is, you first want to balance the graph. You want to get rid of those blockages so that when you go in and do the work and you push that bully out of the neighborhood, you don't even have to beat him up. You have to nudge him a little, push him a little, treat some points, send him on his way. When he reaches these areas like the large intestine or the triple energizer, when he's working through those pathways, he's not stuck. He's moving along nicely. Everything is flowing where it needs to go. So that's my analogy of the bully in the neighborhood through AcuGraph. And now I'm going to share some treatment strategies. So even just with this one, for step one of balancing the graph, you have multiple ways of balancing the graph. I'm just going to go here to a last graph and show you. Here in the bottom, left-hand corner, and there's 6 different treatment strategies. We've done whole trainings on how to choose which one and which one you like. What I want you to recognize is that my favorite treatment strategies, if I'm dealing with pain, are the back shu. I might do the back shu with rapid release. So instead of figuring out exactly which back shu points need to be treated, I'll do the whole back shu with a rapid release, and it will balance the graph. I have been able to prove that in my clinic over and over. So that's one. If I have a really messy graph like this, I might use a divergent treatment. If this patient has shoulder pain, I'm treating them face down. I would use the divergent portion of AcuGraph. And again, that's right here. This little, where the arrows go the 2 different directions. Those points, if I added those points to the treatment plan instead of the back shu, that's the divergent treatment all in and of itself. And again, we have more specific trainings on that. Another one that I like to use is the extraordinary vessel portion of the divergent treatment. And what I mean by that is, if you click on divergent, the first 4 points at the top are the extraordinary vessel points, and then the next 4 points are the divergent points. If I took away the divergent, there are times when I just use the extraordinary vessel portion of the divergent treatment to balance my graph. And if I'm doing that, sometimes I use ion pumping cords, sometimes I don't. If I'm using ion pumping cords, I'm just using one side of the body, and I'm using the ion pumping cords. If I'm not using ion pumping cords, I'll treat the extraordinary points bilateral, and that is my balance of the graph. And then next, after I've balanced the graph, I moved on to treating the pain. And if you're going to treat the pain, there's so many ways you can treat pain. You guys have learned them. I mean, you know common points for shoulder pain, you know common points for low back pain. You know about treating ashi points, where you're palpating the area of pain and you're putting needles in. Musculoskeletal channel theory is what I mostly use. That means that, let's see, that musculoskeletal channel theory is in my book, and I'll go back to the others, but it has to do with the flow of the channel. So we know that if the channel pathways start at the lung, and then they go to the large intestine, then the stomach, then the spleen, and all the way through to the liver and back to the lung again. What I'm talking about is channel theory. If you're having problems in the small intestine pathway, I'm treating the small intestine pathway, and we'll go back here. After small intestine comes the bladder. So I'll treat the small intestine and the bladder to release the blockage. And I do talk about that in the book, and we don't sell the book all by itself. It comes with your rapid release. So if you have rapid release, that whole theory is in the book. And then another theory that I use at times is sports medicine theory, knowing the motor points in the muscles, and many of you have been trained in that area as well. So a quick recap: first I balance the graph, I choose which way I'm going to do it, then I treat the pain with one of these theories, and then I just talked to you about my musculoskeletal channel theory. Know where the pain is, treat the channel with the pain, treat the next pathway, and treat the usher points where the pain is. And then I seal the deal with auriculotherapy. I literally, here in this chart, I've shown you all the musculoskeletal points, but if you have auriculo 3D and they have sciatic pain, bring up your sciatic pain protocol. If you have, if they have shoulder pain or they have TMJ or they have jaw pain, bring up that protocol, scan the ear, and treat the electrically active points that you find related to the pain, put ear seeds on them, and send them home. That's the seal the deal. And then if it's a chronic problem, I add herbs. And typical patterns, there are many TCM patterns, but typical patterns that I see in chronic pain are chi and blood stagnation, internal damp, and kidney deficiency. I'm going to do a quick share with you on where you can find a formula in your AcuGraph that is related to each of these patterns. And so if you're dealing with patterns, I will teach you how to find those. Let's see. So for chi and blood stagnation, if you click on your reference section and then you go to herbs and you click on wood, the second one down, Shui Fu Zhu Yu Tang, is a classic formula for qi and blood stagnation. So that is where you would find a really good formula for blood stagnation. If your patient is more internal damp, then you'll go to reference herbs and then go to earth. And urchin pan is a good formula for damp. So if you would do your treatment and then you would give them internal herbs for damp. And then if they have a kidney deficiency, so kidney and liver yin deficiency, they're elderly, they have that kidney deficiency in general, and they have that tendency towards chronic lower back pain. You would click on reference herbs water and Lu Wei Di Huang Wan, which nourishes liver and kidney yin. Then you'll get better results for these long-term chronic conditions, because then now you have balanced their acupuncture pathways, you have treated them where their pain is, you have given them a tool on their ear so they can go home and treat the pain until they come again, but then you're also nourishing them with herbs, which is helping to change the internal pattern that's developed because their acupuncture pathways aren't flowing well. I have a couple of tools and resources, and then I'll, oftentimes people want to learn more about what I've just taught. If I did a whole weekend in our 2019 symposium, a chronic pain, a system that makes sense. What I taught you here is just a small portion of it. I go more into which points I would treat and why I would treat, and crossing points, and all kinds of exciting information in that. If you are an enterprise user, that is available in your account. If you're not, if you go to our new training portal, then you can purchase that that chronic pain module, and there are some CEUs for it. And then there's a video on YouTube, Seal the Deal with Auriculotherapy, with Dr. Larson and I many years back, but that's where I first began teaching Seal the Deal with Auriculotherapy. And so you can find that on YouTube. I will stop there and answer questions.
Let's, excuse me, let's answer some questions, Kimberly. During the period a patient is under treatment, do you restrict the movement of the body that causes pain? Start the action only when the pain is gone?
While the patient's laying on the table?
There are some, like during, I don't know, maybe you would limit physical activity during the period, the weeks that they're being treated.
Oh, I see. Do I restrict movement of the body that causes the pain? It depends on the patient. I mean, every patient presents in a different way. If they have an injury that needs to heal, I will have them restrict movement. If they have an injury that needs movement because they're not moving, then I will direct them that way. That gets deeper into a longer discussion. It just depends on the patient.
Okay. Let's see. Kirsten says, great analogy, so simple, yet explains it so well. Thank you. I think that's the bully analogy, probably, which I thought was brilliant too. That was really good. Let's see. Do you have success just using auricular?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, yes. I mean, I can, yes. Okay. Not in my chronic pain patients, not in the patients who come to me in my clinic. Can I stop pain immediately with auricular? I absolutely can. If I'm at a family gathering and somebody has a headache, I can change it. If somebody has shoulder pain, neck pain, I can change it. But if they have a chronic condition and all the internal stuff is going on, then I would need to add more to it. But I'll give a caveat. If you're using the Pointo Select as your mode of really getting in and analyzing what's going on all over the body, you'll get better results. But I'm a very hands-on worker. I'm going to get into I'm going to push the bully out of the neighborhood.
Cool. Okay. And then do you ever use ion pellets with auricular, the gold and silver pellets? You know the ones.
Yep. I use gold.
Okay. All right, cool. That's the questions for so far.
All right. Was that helpful to you guys? Do you have any questions you want to talk or raise your hand or unmute yourself?
Yeah, now is the time before we kind of hit the finale.
Yeah. Okay.
Love the storytelling and metaphors. Great system for treating pain. The only thing I might add is to treat the emotions. I know that's a huge part of what you do, Kimberly. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, it just wasn't part of today's presentation because today was about pain. I have other things that I do in relation to emotions, and that is a developing story. You know how our life is we're creating what we're a specialty at. That continues to develop, and it is a huge passion of mine.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, we'll look forward to hearing about that soon.
Okay.
Oh, and I see, people are already asking for it. So
next webinar. That probably will have to turn into a symposium type of training. I don't think I could teach it in an hour.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. So I am going to share my screen again. So there are links in your comments to get to the symposium and the video. So next, I hope that you are enjoying the patient education that we have been creating for you month by month. And this right now is a time we are going to give you 3 minutes. We're going to post the video for you in the chat. We're going to mute everyone, and we're going to have you take 3 minutes and go and watch the patient education video. The reason we don't just show it to you online is because we have so many people on and it's choppy. You'll get a better experience if you go click on it, but make sure you come back because we have some exciting things to share afterwards. So in the chat window, you will find the link to our new patient education video on chronic pain, and we'll see you in 3 minutes.
If you suffer from chronic pain, you probably know that Western medicine doesn't always have the answers. From opioids to surgery, medical interventions for pain are often invasive, dangerous, or ineffective. But it doesn't have to be that way. Did you know that chronic pain is the #1 condition treated by acupuncturists? Why? Because acupuncture takes a different approach to chronic pain, one that is safe and natural and encourages total body balance. According to traditional Chinese medicine, the energy, or qi, in your body runs through a network of interconnected pathways, kind of like roads. Each acupuncture pathway affects specific muscular regions in your body. When energy is running smoothly through your acupuncture pathways, all the systems in your body are able to run at full capacity. This makes you feel good. When there is a traffic jam or a blockage, which stops energy from flowing where it needs to, you may experience symptoms like pain. Stimulation of acupuncture points along the pathways helps to balance energy, restore flow, and bring lasting relief. Your body is a brilliant teacher, and sometimes it speaks to you through symptoms. Pain is your body's way of telling you that your acupuncture pathways are out of balance. Where are you feeling pain? Do you experience pain on a regular basis? Have you been ignoring your pain for a long time? Are your symptoms worsening because you're not listening to the message? Acupuncture can help your body heal and thrive naturally. It has helped millions of people for thousands of years find relief of pain for good, without drugs. What do you have to lose? Start your journey to healing today with acupuncture.
I hope that you are enjoying these videos. We are having a good time creating them, and we want to help you to promote your AcuGraph better.
And these are videos you can link to on your own websites and share with your patients, send them out on social media, whatever you want to do with them, you are welcome to use the link. That's why we create them, as a resource for you.
Fantastic. Okay. So I just wanted to say, I will be back next month, and we're going to talk about acupuncture and weight loss. And until next time, just please remember that you really do have all of the tools that you need in order to be amazing at creating chronic pain. And if you will utilize your AcuGraph and utilize some of the concepts that I taught you, perhaps you will be even better. And remember that you are essential, and we believe in you, and we love hanging out with you each month.
All right. Awesome job. We've got some questions to answer, though. So you're not off the hot seat yet, Kimberly.
Oh, I'm not. I didn't know I still had questions.
That's okay. So let's go here. You have balanced the graph and still have low qi. What is the best approach?
If I've balanced the graph and I still have low qi, well, I take them through a series. So I might add points that will help to boost qi. I'll balance the qi, and I might add a spleen 6 and a stomach 36, because maybe that's their low energy is their chief complaint that day. And so I will add points that boost energy. I will maybe add herbs that boost energy. I might give them some lifestyle techniques that change their energy level.
Okay, great. Can you please repeat the yellow extraordinary vessel story?
Sure. So I'm going to just take these away. I'm not sure if you guys can see all the colors. If I am in a graph and I click on the arrows right here, and then I click add these points to the graph, when you're looking at your AcuGraph, there are points here. So spleen 4, lung 7, stomach 40, and large intestine 5. There's a slight yellow tint behind them. The next 4 has a slight green tint behind them, and the last 4 have a slight pink tint behind them. The ones that are yellow are the extraordinary. So whether or not you can see that on the screen right now, when you're looking at your AcuGraph, you will see them.
That's coming through on mine.
Okay.
Rafael says in Spanish, if my translation's correct, he has a multi-point therapeutic laser. Can he use it?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Laser's wonderful. And then, do you still use MasterPoint as a start of your treatment and balance the graph? From Peter.
Sometimes. Everything that I teach you, I never do exactly the same every time. It just depends on the patient. If my graph is really messy, I might go, and they're in a lot of pain, I might go the direction that I told you in today's seminar. If I get to the point where I only have a couple of imbalances, I might, you know, I have 2 points that I need to balance the graph. There's not a lot I need to do. So if the graph looks like this and it's all green and I just have the bladder channel that's excess and I know that they're suffering from shoulder pain, I'm like, great, let's get you on the table and let's get going. And then me treating their back is going to balance the graph. So it depends on the day. You have to evolve with the treatment. If they come in the next time and like, oh, so we got, here's a discussion. The back is still excess, so I'm, and maybe that's their complaint, but I'm also recognizing that the lung and large intestine are low. And I might ask them questions based on what I'm seeing. Hey, have you been feeling sick? Do you feel like your immune system's down? I'm going to boost your immune system today while I'm treating you. And I balance the graph accordingly. So it just depends on what's happening that day.
What do you think about vagus nerve stimulation for chronic pain relief?
Well, when you're treating auricular therapy, you're doing a lot of vagus nerve stimulation. And so I think it's a great resource.
And we may have more to say about that in a future webinar too.
Yeah.
I'll just leave that laying there. Okay, can I use the movie with my own voice in the Dutch language? Unfortunately, we can't allow people to edit or change it. You can link to it. Dubbing it in, perhaps it can be dubbed in with subtitles though. Let me check and find out if that's going to be possible. What's the date of the next hangout for weight loss? Do we have that date yet? Yep, Friday, December 11th. Sheila said, what is MasterPoint? I think that relates to the question before about do you start with MasterPoint?
I think that what he meant was a source point. So if you click on any acupuncture pathway, there's common points here. And sometimes I will just treat the source point. If I don't like the sedation point or the tonification point for some reason, I will treat the source point. I think that that's what
was being asked.
Being asked.
Okay, great. Well, Kimberly, thank you. Excellent job as always. We very much appreciate it. And I learned some things that I'd never heard from you before. So well done. Until next time. Your patients need you. You are essential. We believe in you. Let's please all keep that in mind. We're still all dealing with a number of challenges. Don't give up hope. Don't give up confidence. The world needs us now more than ever. And Dr. Kimberly, thank you so much for another tremendous webinar.
Love, love.
And now we have a special announcement. And so you all stuck around to the end. Thank you for that.
Yay, you stuck around to the end.
Do you have the slide?
I do have the slide. I just wanted to see everybody who stuck around to the end before I pulled it up. Are we ready?
Yep, go for it.
All right.
Okay, so of course we have a Black Friday sale coming up. Of course it's the best deals of the year. You expect that, right? And we have really pulled out all the stops this year, but that's not enough because our webinar attendees, the folks who come and spend time with us and who ask the questions and who participate and interact, we really wanted to do something more for all of you. So here's what we've got going on. We've got some special gifts for anybody who attended the Hangout today. We've got 2 ways to get your hands on some free swag. First way is we are offering a free 1-hour coaching call with Kimberly for some of you. We'll talk about how to get that. And secondly, we're offering free surprise extras, extra gifts packaged with anything you order for Black Friday because you are webinar attendees. So,
and we love you and we like to give gifts.
Absolutely. And we're trying to counteract any of the negative vibes of Friday the 13th or the entire year of 2020. So here we go. Go ahead and scroll to the next one, Kimberly.
All right, here we go.
First of all, a free 1-hour coaching call with Kimberly. You can talk about anything you want. You can bring your tough cases. You can talk about practice design, how she finds success in what she does. The first 3 people who place an online order for over $500 today. And I know that there's a lot of folks who've been waiting for Black Friday to get a piece of equipment or something that they want. So the first 3 orders over $500 today placed online will be eligible. And once you do that, if you order something today and it's over that total, call us just to let us know that you were on the webinar so that we can take the first 3 in that order, and you get a complimentary free 1-hour consultation. Anything you want to talk about with Kimberly, she's all yours for an hour. And I can't tell you what it costs to rent Kimberly for an hour. So this is a big deal. And we're excited about that. Now, for those of you who aren't the first 3 or who don't need $500 or more worth of stuff, then we are also offering, and the link is in the comments. There we go. So you can click right now. You can go to the Black Friday store. And anybody else who is in the webinar today, anything that you order today, any amount, I don't care what it is, we're giving away free gifts, free stuff, not junk, but things that you'll actually like and use. And same thing, place your order today, then give us a call. Just let us know your order number and let us know that you were in the webinar today, you were in the Hangout, and that you want free stuff. And we'll take it from there. We'll take care of you. So I hope that if you were waiting for something, if you were waiting for the best pricing, now's the time. I hope that it does you some good and helps your practice. And meanwhile, if there's anything at all that we can do to help out, please reach out to us. We're here for you. We love you guys. And we wish you just all the best for the rest of the year and for everything that's going on. Anything to add, Kimberly?
I just want to tell you guys that we appreciate you. We love you. We appreciate you. We love to hear your successes and all that you have going on in the world. I would say that if you are, so there'll be the 3 that can have the coaching call. If you're the rest of the group and you order anything today, and our today goes all the way until midnight Mountain Standard Time. If no one is here to answer your phone and you call and leave a message and just say, hey, this is so-and-so, my name is Dr. Taraz, I was in the webinar, I placed an order, here's my order number.
Yep.
You can leave a voice message.
Perfect. Oh, and people say, well, what's the free gift? I want to know if it's worth it. It's different for different orders. It depends on what you purchase and the total purchase price and value and so on. We have a number of things.
I've seen some of them. They're good gifts.
Yep. So that's it. Any questions, reach out to us. Thank you all for joining us today. That Black Friday sale link is right over here in the in the chat. And Kimberly, why don't you put that slide up again about the 2 offers, just so people know. You can screenshot that and actually put up the one about how to, you can screenshot this, then you'll have our phone number. That way, if you place an order, you can let us know that you were in the Hangout today. And with that, blessings, everybody. Thank you. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.